The political illusion that's keeping you broke. You think your biggest financial enemy is inflation, or taxes, or not making enough money. But what if I told you it's actually the labels you've been taught to believe in? Liberal, conservative, left, right, red, blue. They've turned politics into a game of identity while quietly robbing you of your real power. Because when you're busy choosing sides, you're not choosing strategy. And when you buy into the illusion, you're easier to control. This isn't about politics, it's about how the system keeps you broke, while the wealthy rise above it. Welcome to Luxona, where millionaires are made. In the beginning, liberal meant liberty. It meant small government, personal freedom, free markets, and open speech. The original liberals were revolutionaries. They fought monarchs, censorship, and taxation without representation. They didn't ask for handouts. They demanded autonomy. Now here's the twist. If you read that description today, who does it sound like? A libertarian? A conservative? An outsider? Because somewhere along the line, everything changed. Enter the Industrial Revolution. Mass production boomed, cities exploded, inequality widened, and people began asking, if the system is broken, shouldn't government fix it? This is where progressivism began to fuse with liberalism. The goals weren't evil. They came from a desire to uplift people. Social safety nets, workers' rights, public services. But with every new government solution came a bigger government footprint. And suddenly, freedom through less control turned into fairness through more control. Liberalism evolved, or depending on how you see it, it was hijacked. Meanwhile, conservatism had its own transformation. Historically, conservatives were about tradition, hierarchy, and institutional control. But by the mid-20th century, they began absorbing classical liberal ideals: small government, low taxes, business freedom. The Reagan era solidified this shift. Conservatism became synonymous with capitalism and deregulation. But even that began to change. Today, parts of conservatism are no longer just about markets and freedom. They've embraced social control, censorship, and moral enforcement of a different kind. So now, both major ideologies, once completely opposed, have begun to mirror each other in one dangerous way. They both want power over how you live. Here's what the system doesn't want you to realize. While you're busy fighting over left versus right, the wealthy are buying back your future. Because millionaires and billionaires don't care who's yelling on Twitter. They're too busy funding policies, lobbyists, and algorithms that protect their interests while you argue over labels. And the deeper you go into identity-driven politics, the further you drift from financial clarity. Let's look at how this plays out financially. Liberals push for increased taxes on the wealthy. Conservatives push for lower taxes and less regulation. But here's the secret. The rich always find a way. They use trusts, shell companies, depreciation strategies, asset shifting, and legal loopholes crafted through years of donations to both sides. The ultra-wealthy don't just play the game, they own the stadium. While the middle class fights over tax brackets that might save them thousands, the elite architect structures that shelter millions. You're stuck with headlines, hashtags, and emotion. Meanwhile, they write the rules, then walk through the doors they built. It gets worse. When you adopt a political label too strongly, it begins to dictate your spending, your investments, and your mindset. Liberals may avoid certain companies or financial strategies for ethical reasons. Conservatives may overinvest in gold or emotionally driven freedom assets that underperform. But the truly wealthy stay detached. They look at ROI, not identity. They diversify based on math, not memes. Look at the investment portfolios of the top 1%. You'll find Democrats and Republicans with nearly identical asset allocations. They're not following tribal narratives. They're following power signals. Here's what they know that most people never learn. Wealth is freedom, not a label. When you own assets, you don't care who's in the White House. When your portfolio cash flows, you don't need subsidies. When your business runs systems, you don't wait for laws to change. For every tax increase, there's a strategy. For every market crash, there's an opportunity. For every regulatory change, there's an adaptation. You become what both sides are really fighting over: a free-thinking, economically sovereign individual. And that is the real threat to the system. So, what do you do now? You unplug from the identity war. You stop asking if something is liberal or conservative and start asking, does this move me toward financial freedom or not? You stop parroting headlines and start reading between the lines. You realize most public arguments are distractions, while the real decisions are made in back rooms, boardrooms, and private capital meetings. When everyone else is watching the theater of politics, you're studying the mechanics of wealth. While they debate policies that might impact your tax bill by 2%, you're structuring assets that could grow by 200%. Let me be clear. This doesn't mean you don't care about the world. It means you care enough to rise above the noise. You can still vote, still believe, still value, but don't let it blind you from the truth. If you don't understand the system, you're being used by it. The left will tell you that wealth is immoral. The right will tell you that regulation is tyranny. But neither will tell you how the game actually works. Because once you know, you can't be controlled. At Luxona, we don't play red or blue. We play black, profit, and gold, power. We study wealth across centuries, not election cycles. We build strategies that thrive under any administration. We teach you how to think, not what to think. The average person switches political opinions 3 to 4 times in their lifetime. But wealth principles remain constant across millennia. Because once you're financially free, you can finally afford to be intellectually free. And that's the level where real power lives. So the next time someone asks, "Are you liberal or conservative?" you'll smile and say, "I'm beyond that. I'm free." This is Luxona, where millionaires are made. Subscribe now, because the system was built to divide categories. But here, we build capital, and we use it to reshape reality.